Hi, Dawn. I remember you when you were with the club. So welcome back. It's so good to see you. And yes, I am one of those long-term members also.
And thanks, as you know, I'm Shelley Katz, and I'm Unit Chief Counsel for Environmental Enforcement here at the Arizona Attorney General's Office. So I want to turn it over to Maria to introduce our speaker, and we can get started with our program meeting.
And I'm actually gonna switch it over to Lee Wales, who knows Dawn very well, and will be giving a brief introduction. Thank you so much, Lee.
You're welcome, Maria. Thank you. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce one of my really good friends, Dawn Bogart. And also, this is a great opportunity for me to say thank you to Dawn, because it's because of Dawn and a lovely lady named Vicki Pena, who many of you know, that I'm a seroptimist. Dawn hired both Vicki and me to work with her at Homeward Bound quite a while ago. And so the three of us it was great. And that's how I became a seroptimist. So thank you, Dawn. Before I introduce Dawn, there is one thing I wanted to mention. I hope you all got to read the very brief introduction about Homeless Youth Connections, so you know a little bit about it. And you know that they help, and I'm going to read a little bit more about this, but they help students who are homeless, high school students. We were really fortunate. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know, Dawn, if you remember, but one of your students came to speak at one of our Dream It, Be It sessions. And it was so fabulous because, well, first of all, she was wonderful. But I think for the students to hear from someone who had gone through so many challenges and overcome them, they could identify with her. She was more their age, than some of the rest of us are. And it was just really wonderful. So I wanted to let everyone know that partnership had we kind of worked together a little bit. And I wanted to give everyone an opportunity who knows Dawn to maybe wave. Judge Bolton, you know her? Yeah, Susan does. Joy, you know Dawn, don't you? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Hi, Dawn. So now my official introduction of Dawn Bogart. She's the Chief Executive Officer for Homeless Youth Connections. She joined that organization in 2014, and she has more than 30 years of experience working with nonprofit organizations. She has helped to develop and implement numerous programs which provided housing and support services to hundreds of homeless families locally, and has raised over $15 million for homeless families and children. As an executive officer, Dawn has overseen the substantial growth of HYC, including the number of youth and schools served. It's such a unique program. You guys are going to love this. She has implemented the host family program to address the housing needs of unaccompanied youth, as well as expanded and enhanced the mentor program to assist homeless youth with their plan for the future. Dawn's personal philosophy is, if you have the ability to take action, you have the responsibility to take action. For fun, she enjoys running, reading, watching movies, spending quality time with her children, and playing with her dog, Ellie. And she is also a huge superhero fan. So with that, let me introduce my friend, Dawn Bogart.
Thank you, Lee. I was thinking of our dear friend, Vicki, this morning, and how you guys used to make me laugh so hard. I won't tell the colorful joke Vicki has given, but it really is an honor to see a lot of you. I had the distinct pleasure of being a seroptimist a little more than 25 years ago, and Eileen Willett was my mentor sponsor. So it's nice to see Susan and Sarah and Lori and Joy, and I really was thrilled when Lee gave me the opportunity to say hi and kind of introduce a little bit about what I've been doing over the last couple of years. So for those of you who don't know Homeless Youth Connection, and I'm going to beg your indulgence if my favorite staff member, Eli. We get a lot of the donations here at my home because sometimes it's not a real good area for the FedEx to drop off at the new office. So he doesn't really like the FedEx guy. So if he starts barking, I'll try and mute you. Anyway, homeless, as Lee mentioned, I was with Homeward Bound for probably about 17 years. And you guys were so instrumental in really helping a lot of the women there, helping with our capital campaign. It was just really a great honor to be a Soroptimist at that time. And when I was reflecting on it this morning, I think the word that kept coming up for me with all of the women, the strong women I met, was integrity. And how important that has been to me throughout my career. And I just want to say thank you, because so many of you had an integrity, and it was something that I had aspired to be like several years ago. So thank you for that. I joined HYC, as Lee mentioned, first as a board member. And then very shortly after, the organization was really small at the time. We were only in about 20 high schools and really just in the West Valley, serving about 47 students. And there were just too many opportunities for us to expand and serve other high schools. So I took a dramatic pay cut and became their executive director. And over the course of the last 8 years, we've grown the organization. We now partner with 130 high schools in Maricopa County and Flagstaff. We serve on average about 600 youth who are experiencing homelessness. They are enrolled in school. However, we also added college to our services a couple of years ago, and I'll explain why in a minute. We have about 12 youth coaches that go directly into the campuses and provide the services to the students. That's the biggest difference in what makes HYC unique, because these kids don't have transportation and they can't go pick out a food box, or they can't go and sign up for access at DES because they can't get there. So the uniqueness is that we actually meet the youth where they are and provide whatever services are necessary. And that could be everything from basic hygiene items and clothing to helping them get access so they can have health care and get the medical care and dental and vision care that they need. We pay for a lot of the co-pays and prescriptions. We also help them get vital documents. The youth coaches really are providing that comprehensive social services to really identify not only what basic needs they have, but they also make sure that they're on track to graduate. And we actually pay for a lot of the things that the schools can't, to make sure that the kids can stay in school and stay engaged in school. And sometimes that might be providing a band instrument because they want to stay and participate in band, and really they're going to school so they can see their friends who are in band. We'll do PE uniforms and caps and gowns and help with scholarships and registrations to college. The other unique program that Lee mentioned is our host family program. And I'm really proud of that particular program because we've actually been able to place over 250 kids within the last 6 years. And of those kids, 98% stayed in school and graduated, and about 70 to 80% actually went on to college. And that's why we increased adding college students to our caseloads. The host family program, really, it's about individuals like you, volunteers in the community that are willing to step forward and provide a safe and stable home for our youth in the neighborhood that their school is in. that's the beauty of it. When we were first looking at the program, I was thinking, okay, well, we're covering 9,000 square miles. Where are we going to put a facility that's going to accommodate all of those high schools? And so we did a lot of research to find the host family program, and it's worked out really, really well. That being said, because our youth have, especially during the pandemic, we've seen a huge increase in the need for services, and our youth coaches are spending a lot more time with the youth. And probably 75% of our youth are either in the Phoenix district or the East Valley. We had an incredible opportunity this past year in partnership with Catholic Charities to relocate our offices from the West Valley to Central Phoenix. And in doing so, we picked up 10 residential units. So we're actually going to be able to provide 20 new emergency and transitional beds for youth in the Phoenix area. And that's huge, considering over the last probably 5 years, we've seen a dramatic decrease in the number of beds that are available for youth experiencing homelessness. The fun thing about that new location is I don't have an office anymore, so I'm going to have to stay working from home with my staff member, of course. But it's a real, we've definitely grown a lot in the last, especially the last 4 years. We've seen an increase in our budget from a little over $1 million to almost 2.7 million this year. Not necessarily a huge increase in the number of kids, but definitely the more kids that are being housed, the more kids that need additional services. And the partnerships with the high schools is just incredible. And they really advocate for our services. They know that if we didn't provide a lot of these services, a lot of those kids would drop out. The dropout rate for kids in high school who experience homelessness is 87%. If youth stay in our program and participate and complete their education, we've got a 90 to 95% success rate. And that's huge. A lot of those kids will go on to college. I mentioned why we do college. When we were first initiating the host family program, probably within the first 2 years, if we had a youth who was in the host family program, graduated, and decided to go on to college, that host family agreed to keep that student through college. Now, as a small organization, we didn't have any money to continue to pay them stipends, but that didn't matter. They had really created this incredible relationship, and the families saw the success that by providing safe and stable housing that youth could have. And so over time, we started paying for additional stipends for those host families if they were to keep the youth through the first year of college. We also ended up with an emergency transitional house, again, with the partnership with Catholic Charities, and that was in the East or West Valley. And what we saw during the pandemic is we had a number of youth that didn't have any housing, but still wanted to go to college. And because everybody was remote, they had nowhere to go. And so we ended up with about 4 to 6 kids that stayed through the entire year in the transitional host home in Goodyear. 4 of them graduated. They also went out to went on to have permanent housing. 2 of them ended up as roommates. All 4 of them were working, and 2 of them had $10,000 in savings. That solidified for us why we needed to add first-year college students to our services. It's been incredibly successful. We added Flagstaff last year, so that was pretty big for us. And I will share a secret that nobody else knows. So you all have to really promise, because this hasn't been announced, and it actually hasn't even been announced to our board of directors. That'll happen tonight. We received a grant from Arizona Department of Housing, and it's going to allow us to purchase a transitional housing home in Flagstaff. There are no services for kids 18 to 24 who are experiencing homeless up there. And really, we are the only ones that are providing those services. And I can tell you that over probably on average, they have about 20 to 30 kids that are unaccompanied and have no housing. Last year, I remember working with one of the students, and he was sleeping in his car. And by December, we were just scrambling, trying to find places for him to stay. And so I'm grateful that this year we won't have to worry about that. So with that being said, Lee knows I can give you all kinds of stories and talk on and on about it. Again, I appreciate you guys have always been with me in terms of some of the guidance and lessons I've learned from you. And I appreciate the opportunity to say thank you and to say hello again.
Does anyone have questions for Dawn? Does anyone have questions for Dawn?
I do. This is Maria.
Maria.
Hi, Dawn. Again, thank you so much. You mentioned Catholic Charities. What other organizations do you partner with? And it sounds like your organization is actually very successful in getting other organizations to partner with. Who else are you partnering with to provide these resources?
That's a great question, Maria. Thank you for asking that. You're right. We have been very, very fortunate in terms of our partnerships. So we actually have MOUs with 13 districts. The high schools are our largest partner. We partner with St. Joseph the Worker and Trinity Opportunity Alliance to offer a really robust employment program and work readiness program for our youth. We partner with Adelante for healthcare, Brighter Way and West Valley Vision and Dental for vision and dental services. We've been very fortunate in the West Valley. They're through a network of dentists. We've got a lot of orthodontists and dentists that usually will provide a lot of services. Catholic Charities has been the housing component for us. Our new facility is going to be is in Sunny Slope, about Central and Dunlap. And we're going to be partnering with NOAA to offer additional health care. We've got a great representation with DES to make sure all the kids can get signed up for access. I'm thinking we've got resources for bus passes through some of the partnerships. So that's kind of just a few of them. Up in Flagstaff, it's a whole host of groups. It's really nice that it's a very close-knit community up there. So there's a lot of different partners up there. And then obviously, as far as for the host family program, at the service organizations and the churches, that's really where we started getting the host families. We kind of took the whole sample of what the Homeward Bound's family sponsor program was, and just kind of implemented that kind of program to start the host family program and to recruit different host families. So great question.
Susan.
Susan.
Hi, Dawn.
You?
When you were talking, and particularly speaking about high school, I was thinking, well, how could you be serving teenagers under 18, because they would be in the custody of Department of Children's Services? Great question. And so if I'm deducing that you're not serving them until they turn 18, do you have some kind of relationship with Department of Children's Services so that you know when kids are coming out of foster care or some type of a supervised home, group home, that they can go right to you for help?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we get that a lot. The youth that we serve, as far as our housing goes, they are 18 and over. I should have clarified that. So thank you. But the youth that we provide services to in the schools are referred to us by the school liaisons. And there is a difference between the youth that are in foster care and the youth that are considered homeless. It's very two distinct definitions. About 70% of the youth that we serve are tied to an entire family who's homeless. 70% are with doubled up in a lot of cases. And then about 30% are what you would call unaccompanied youth. And they're unaccompanied. Usually they're 18 and over, but we do get kids as young as 16 and 17. And mainly the reason that they're unaccompanied is that what we used to call it at Homeward Bound, the 4Ds. You would have domestic violence at home. Divorce is a huge issue as to why the kids are on their own. So many times we get the story of mom and dad getting a divorce and the new spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend doesn't like the kids. And so they're the ones that are asked to leave. A number of our kids reported that their whoever they were staying with, their caregivers or parents or grandparents, were doing drugs, and they knew that that wasn't the path for them. And they got tired of not being able to go to school because they didn't have any food, and they were worried about their safety. So those are usually the youth that at least end up in the housing component. We have been trying to work with DCS, and they're doing a much better job with their, I shouldn't say they're doing a better job. I think they're doing a better job promoting their incredible resources after. So the young adult program, the transitional living program. We really encourage the kids to take advantage of those services if they can. If they can't and they don't want to be in the system anymore, then a lot of times they do come to us and we'll continue to provide those services. I should have mentioned too that we do provide aftercare services. So once our kids leave the program, they actually have a whole year where they can continue to come back and get whatever resources they need. They just aren't receiving that intense case management any longer. But does that help answer your question?
Yeah, but do you have some obligation though, if you are referred to someone who's under 18 and you know that they're not, that
Yes.
you know that they're unhoused at that time, do you have an obligation to put them into the DCS system?
That's a great question. And Maria, I should have said this before. So another one of our partners is Lifeology, also Open Hands and Child Crisis. And so if that situation comes up, we will refer to those particular organizations. And in some cases, if we are able to reconnect with the parents, depending on what the situations are. I know that we had one youth whose father was in jail, and the youth coach actually went to the jail to get parental consent. He was about 17, and I think he was going to be 18 in like 6 months. And so a lot of times in those situations, unfortunately, yeah, you could try and go into the system, but there's no really resources as far as maybe a group home, but definitely not a foster family. There's just not enough resources. So they do get a parental consent. So we do follow the laws, and I'm fortunate that our director of youth services is Lisa Miller. And she was with UMOM for about 20 years, and she was in behavioral health before that. So she's really good at knowing all of the laws and regulations and compliance and all of that. She ran the Open Hands program for UMOM for a number of years. So had those relationships with DCS and knew what to do. So I trust her to implement all of that. Great question.
Does anyone else have other questions? So Dawn, I was wondering, you mentioned partnering with high schools. What is that partnership like? What do you do? What do they do? How does that work?
So what happens is we've been contacted over the years in terms of how should I say this? We were in about six high schools, and we work with the individual that's called the McKinney-Vento School Liaison. And as they talk amongst themselves, that's how we ended up expanding our services. So when we were in Peoria, Mesa heard about us, and then Phoenix heard about Mesa. And that's how we ended up in the 13 districts. We have memorandums of understanding with all of the districts, and our youth coaches go in and work with the school liaisons in each high school. That liaison is the individual that identifies the kids as homeless based on the McKinney-Vento criteria. Once the kids are identified, our youth coach goes in and meets with the youth, really just does a quick overview. And this kind of gets back, Susan, to what you were saying earlier about, consents and things like that. So if the youth is under 18, we give them an overview of the program and the different services that we offer. If they're interested, that's when we go in and get the parental consent to provide services to the youth at that school. And a lot of times that is, the basic needs and helping with vital documents and paying for the things that the schools don't. Did that help?
Any other questions from anyone? Do you have, I think you have some supplies that you are able to provide as well. Are those in the schools?
Sometimes, and it depends really on the school district and what resources they have. We have a great partnership with Phoenix Union, and of course they've got tons of resources. A couple years ago, they were able to dedicate 2 full classrooms to turn into a resource center at Carl Hayden. And so what we did is we went in and we restructured the classrooms and kind of made it like a mini boutique. And with the donations that we would receive on a regular basis from like Walmart and Dick's Sporting Goods, we could provide a lot of clothing and hygiene items to them, household items. We source for a lot of those items as well. What we have learned, though, over the years is that, especially the donated clothing, it's not something that our youth really want. They want to go shopping, just like all of their friends are doing. They don't want to feel different. They want to feel just as normal as possible. And so what we've found out is that by not only just providing that gift cards so they can go out and pick out their own and feel empowered to get their own clothing, we can slyly teach them budgeting and life skills and all of the financial management around that. So it just lends itself to a good life skill opportunity, but it also makes them feel good as well. That's one. We'll say that's
Yeah.
one challenge we
Mary?
have right now.
Yeah, Don, hi. I'm
Mary.
Hi, it's great to see you. I was wondering, what you're doing is different from a lot of organizations, it sounds like, in that you're dealing with the youth and not with the family.
Correct.
And I was wondering if if you network with other organizations around the country that are dealing with that same need. Is there any national organization here to help with resources?
Mary, thank you so much for asking that. I wish.
Yeah.
Lee knows this, that's my overall goal, because there are no other programs like HYC in the country. And I can say that because we have been doing a lot of networking. We were fortunate to receive a federal grant, and it's the only federal grant we have, from runaway and homeless youth a couple of years ago. And so through that opportunity, we did a lot of networking with other homeless youth providers. And we did find out that most of those providers, especially if it's for housing, was 18 and older, and they were already out of high school. Most of them weren't going to college. They didn't have jobs. And in doing a lot of that networking, people asked for our services. So that's one thing that we're definitely looking at. Before the pandemic, I will say that we were in conversations with San Diego Youth Services, and they were looking at their San Diego Youth Services, kind of, Susan, is over all of Phoenix's DCS program. So they handle all of it, but they didn't have a program like ours. So we were going to go into the San Diego area and start with a couple of districts, and then the pandemic happened. So, but I definitely, because what I know, Mary, is if the youth can get that diploma, they have a much better chance of being able to be self-sufficient and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. And percentage of kids that go through the program, they don't end up in chronic homelessness. And that really is important in terms of trying to definitely break that cycle.
Right, you're trying to keep them from falling between the cracks.
Exactly, exactly.
Great.
And a lot of programs don't, again, take services to them. Even, most of the homeless youth programs, you've got to come into them. You've got to go to the drop-in center or what have you. And we're covering 9,000 square miles. So if the drop-in center is in Central Phoenix, how is somebody from Mesa or Peoria or Paradise Valley and Scottsdale to get there? It's a challenge, big challenge. Susan?
Dawn, how of the high school students that you're serving, how many of them are housed versus still remain homeless?
Again, 70, and I want to give you another stat real quick before I do. In May, we work another partnership, the Arizona Department of Education. The state homeless coordinator is on our advisory board, and we've been working with them for a long time. Sylvia gave us a report in May, and there were 8,700 youth in Arizona just in 9th through 12th grade that were identified as homeless. 1,100 of them were unaccompanied youth. Again, 70% of them, according to kind of similar to the point in time counts, they're doubled up. And then a lot of the other kids, and this is, I can mention this is another part of the host family program. A lot of the kids are, if they are unaccompanied, they're couch surfing. The challenge is HUD doesn't recognize couch surfing as homeless. McKinney-Vento does. And I can tell you that most of the kids are couch surfing are bouncing between 3 and 5 different places. And so if you think about that, that really isn't stable housing. But what happens is what we learned early in the host family program is about half of the kids that participate in the host family program, they identify their own host family. When my kids were in high school, over the course of probably 7 years, we took in 5 kids. 2 were because of domestic violence, and 2 were because their family didn't agree with their sexual orientation. And I know that, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So if the youth, we find out that the youth is couch surfing, we will contact those families to say, if you would agree to keep the youth in one place through graduation, we will pay you a monthly stipend. We will cover all the health care. We'll cover all of the educational needs, and take care of any other resources that the youth have, if you would just provide that stability. And that really is a good option for the youth, because then you don't have to worry about building that trust factor that you might have if you're bringing in what we call a community partner host family.
Thank you. Sarah, you had your hand up.
I did. Nice to see you, Dawn.
You too, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, this is such a good idea, particularly going into the high schools rather than having the youth travel all over the valley. And my question to you is, have you found a particular need where the high school isn't working with you, that you'd love to be more aggressive? Have you found a particular area where they really need your help, but so far you haven't been able to get in there, get into the high school or whatever?
Honestly, Sarah, if I expand to any more high schools right now, my staff is going to kill me. So we're at a point where we want to, and the need has grown up so dramatically because of the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, our youth coaches' caseloads were about 60 kids. And during the pandemic, we saw that the time with them was increasing. And so it was difficult for them to, be with as many kids. So right now, in recognizing those additional needs, we've got the caseloads down to about 40 or 50. I should mention that in addition to the regular high schools that we work with, we do work with the charter schools that are doing credit recovery and those types of services as well. So the ombudsmans, the intellis, the JAG program, and I know I'm missing a couple of them. Did that answer your question?
Well, I guess my next follow-up would be, because you're really saying there is a need, and the youth coaches were overwhelmed, and now it's a lot better. What do you need to do to expand even more? I hate to say you're going, oh my gosh, please don't say that to me. It's such a wonderful service. What do you need, really?
Really, at this point, honestly. So by taking over this new property in Hatcher, we've been very fortunate, really, because, and I don't want to say this backwards, but as most of you know, my background at Homeward Bound was in development and fundraising. And I've been very, very fortunate that most of the organizations that I've worked with over the last 20, 25 years, their areas of focus are youth education and homelessness. And so we've been able to really develop a strong funding base to meet the majority of those needs. With this additional property in Hatcher, we're increasing our staff almost double. So we're going from, I think, 19 up to 37. Because the residential property, to have 20 kids in the Hatcher property, we need to provide 24/7 supervision. And so we're hiring resident assistants for the evening and the weekends. And the Flagstaff property, trying to get the caseloads lower. So we had to hire more youth coaches. To support the youth coaches, I had to hire more program managers. And all this additional staffing for this particular year was about $1 million increase. And so I was very fortunate that I went to 5 funders that we normally work with. Every once in a while, we'll do capital campaign or capacity building. And they agreed to do a 2-year, $100,000 grant. So we could take these 2 years and build up the support from the churches and the service organizations and the smaller businesses and the individuals in the Phoenix and East Valley area. So before I were to expand any further, I have to maintain, that growth. And really, it has been a lot for the staff. Just bringing all the new procedures and all that kind of stuff. So I'd love to expand. In the back of my mind, I have some plans and stuff that we might be able to do that. I will tell you, Tucson already has a really good program, and we've been talking to them, but I think that they're pretty much covered. And we'll see if things go well. We may be reaching back, or San Diego may be reaching back out to us.
Mhm.
It would take, to be blunt, it's money.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dawn.
You bet.
Anybody, any other questions at the last minute? Countdown, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you. It was so good to see you.
It was
And
everybody.
and I'm sure, and it was fun for you to see some people.
Yes.
Yeah. And them to
Yes.
see you.
Yes.
And to hear about the program. It's wonderful. And you know what we do. So certainly we are so thrilled to hear about what you're doing and the successes that you're having. And so pleased. And Peggy is in charge of our WISE program for scholarships. And so that's a connection to for people going into college out of high school. So yeah, we will.
Once we get Hatcher furnished, we would love to give you guys a tour if you're interested. Lee will keep connected, and maybe in a couple of months we can get everything going and you guys can come in and visit.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That'd be great.
Come to an open house.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn. On behalf of all of us, thank you. And I'll hand the meeting back to who, Shelley or Maria?
We'll go to Shelley.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for attending, and thanks so much, Dawn, for sharing everything that you're doing with Homeless Youth Connection. I guess since we have a couple of minutes, I'm just going to throw a question out there, and that is there anything we can do to support you as Seroptimist or as individuals?
We have, especially now that we're in Central Phoenix, our volunteer opportunities have really increased. It's a lot easier. One of the challenges I will say that this new facility has is I don't have a donations area. I am trying to build that. But that's always an opportunity. The scholarships, as you mentioned, is a great opportunity. What I can do, Shelley, is we just hired a new development manager that is doing the community outreach, and I can put her and Lee in contact, and they can kind of give you a whole list of all the different volunteer opportunities.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. Because I would love to share that with the members of our club and just to sort of the wider group of people that I know. So that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
This new facility is going to allow us to have a more structured area where we can do life skill classes. We're going to have cooking classes and things like that on the property. So it'll be fun.
Lee.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Steve and I, we don't live too far from there. We're north of there. And we dropped in when we heard about this new place. and there was a lot going on, but we could just tell it really is going to be fabulous. I mean, it's wide open area for eating and socializing, and in the kitchen. I mean, how fabulous to, build into those skills, right? Those life skills that we all need. And kind of, I think it looks like it'd be very family oriented. It gives that feeling of not being very separated and coming together when you want to. So we were really impressed. We thought it was we thought it was great, and we've already volunteered to do something that's within our skill level, Dawn.
Thanks. And Dawn, just on a personal note, I do love to cook and bake and do it often. So to the extent you're looking for somebody to maybe come down and offer a class on a Saturday or Sunday, please feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Great. Thank you, Shelley.
All right. Any other announcements or anything for the good of the order before we close our meeting? Maria.
One last announcement. Again, thank you, Don. We'll keep saying that for the next year. And just remind everybody, October 20th, that's going to be our next program meeting, and we're going to have Dawn Marie Lemons, and she's going to be talking to us about human trafficking. So please put that on your calendars, October 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon. It was great to see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.